And I just think that when these games come down to like a half court execution battle, when the game slows down in the fourth quarter, like this team just doesn't quite have it in the fourth quarter. And if you can't score in the half court in the playoffs, you are going to lose to the better teams, to the teams who have legit shot creators, like a LeBron, like we saw in this game with Cade Cunningham. Like in this game, you're going to see Cade Cunningham goes on a run here where there's no defense for it. He just makes shots, and the Houston Rockets have nothing to match it on the other end. So that's the problem that I see for them this year. And I know that they've won clutch games. Like I said, they're 13-9 in these clutch scenarios, but it's different in a series, man. When it's more than just one game, when you get 3 or 4 games in a series coming down to the wire, coming down to clutch time and execution in the half court, like, I don't believe in this Rockets team, and I don't believe in them because I don't think they have a player or multiple players who can just get buckets, especially when you're going against teams in the playoffs that are going to have those players on the other side. I don't see them being able to compete, and this is a first-round exit team for me, man. Even if they get out of the first round, I can't see them getting out of the second. There's just, I do not see the ceiling for this team this season. Now, with that said, it does have to be mentioned that Jalen Green has been on an absolute heater. Jalen's last 10 games, 28.7 points per game on 47.2% from 3 on 9 attempts. That is absolutely incredible. Those are otherworldly, like, superstar numbers. And so, yes, if you want to be like, no, Jalen Green is the 1A, like, Jalen Green can be the closer, he's the superstar. If he's going to do that, if he's going to be that guy, like those stats that I just read, sure. I will, admit that I'm wrong, and I'll say, you know what? Yeah, the Rockets are a true contender if that's the version of Jalen Green they're getting. But unfortunately, I do have to remind people, like, Jalen does this. Jalen goes on these crazy stretches of shot making and shooting, and then eventually he comes back down to earth and he shows you, where he's really at. And those stats I just read, that's not where he's really at. This is a really hot stretch, but that's not who he is. The Rockets do not have a 1A superstar that can compete with some of the guys that they're going to run up against in the playoffs. And honestly, I thought this game against the Pistons was a really good example of that. This game was kind of a microcosm of the concerns that I have for this Houston Rockets team come playoff time. There's a stretch here where Cade, like I said, just goes absolutely nuclear. So from the start of the third quarter to the 6-minute mark in the third quarter, Detroit won those minutes 20-7. Detroit shot 8 of 11. Cade shot 5 for 6, 13 points and 3 threes. Guess what Houston did? 3 for 12. Jalen Green goes 0 for 5. And yes, I know that teams have, runs like this all the time in the NBA, but this specifically was a microcosm of what is the problem for the Rockets, and they never were able to fully close that gap. They got down, I think they got down 15 at the most, and they got it to 5 at one point, but you just see the stagnant offense for the Houston Rockets throughout this game. So, again, this is a team that's super exciting, that I have a lot of respect for, that I think has a really bright future, but I just want to slow down a little bit with the, looking at the standings and being like, oh, they're the 2 seed, so they're right there with OKC. They're better than Denver. They're better than Dallas. They're better than all these other teams. No, they're not. They're having a better regular season because they have something that's really valuable in the regular season, which is depth and youth and defense, but that stuff starts to not matter quite as much in the playoffs. Yes, depth is helpful in the playoffs, but lineups do get shortened. That is a real thing that happens in the playoffs. So, youth, in the regular season, is a really valuable thing because, like I said, you get all the hustle, you get all the energy, the athleticism, but when we get to playoff time, youth, like Jalen Green and some of these decisions, Amen Thompson can't shoot, they have real problems to address in terms of being a real contender this season. So let's just slow our roll on the Rockets. That's all I'm saying. Let's appreciate them for what they are, but let's not bump them up into this tier that they're not ready to be in quite yet. Now, I do want to talk about the Pistons just a little bit. So Pistons have won 11 of their last 15. They have cooled down a little bit, actually, because they had won 10 of their previous 12 before that. So they did have those back-to-back losses to the Pacers and the Suns over the last week or so. But let's talk about it. Cade has been an all-star this year. No doubt he is having an all-star level season, and a lot of it is because of his individual jump in his shooting. So Cade on pull-up threes last year shot it at 32.5%. This year all the way up to 35.5%. And honestly, that number was higher just a couple of games ago. He's had a couple bad games that brought that down a little bit. Overall on threes, Cade shot 35.5% last year. That's up to 37.3% this year. So Cade obviously having an unbelievable season just as a scorer, as a playmaker, and he's been a really good defender too. Like, he's taken a jump literally in every single category. But the Pistons overall as a team have made, they deserve credit for making the moves that they made this offseason. So they bring in Tim Hardaway, they bring in Tobias Harris, they bring in Malik Beasley. Obviously, they start playing more of Jaden Ivey. Unfortunately, goes down with the broken leg, just a brutal injury. But he was playing great before he went out. And they replaced guys like Alec Burks. They replaced Killian Hayes, who was one of the worst players in basketball last year. James Wiseman, Kevin Knox, these guys that just didn't really know how to play the game. And they brought in like true veterans who, they're not stars by any means. They're not like game wreckers, but they're guys who know how to play the game, and they're guys who have a legit role in the NBA. Like Hardaway and Malik Beasley are two awesome shooters and shot makers that the Pistons are sending flying off screens. They're getting out in transition. They've been paired so perfectly alongside Cade Cunningham. And I just think the Pistons deserve a lot of credit for bringing in guys that complement Cade's skill set, and just in general for bringing in guys who are veterans, who know how to play the game, and getting this team to a at least competitive level. They are in the play-in hunt right now. No, I think they're the 9th seed or so. They also replaced Monty Williams with JB Bickerstaff, which has clearly been a positive coaching change. But let's get into this game a little bit. Like I said, Cade really took this game over as a scorer. Both teams had a lot of turnovers at points. Cade specifically had 10 turnovers, which was crazy. But the Rockets, like I said, awesome athletes, awesome defense. That's what they do. They turn you over. But you're going to see, like, the Rockets just don't have enough offense in this game to compete, and that's why I'm kind of worried about the Rockets. But I hope you guys don't kill me too much in the comments for my stance on the Rockets. Again, I love the team. Like, I love it. I have so much respect for what they've done this year. But I just don't want to get too high on them too soon. With that said, though, I will send it over to the film breakdown. Hope you guys enjoy. We've made it to the film breakdown. I'm going to show you a little bit of the chess match that was this second half. We're going to highlight some of the really good stuff that the Pistons did both defensively and offensively with Cade Cunningham. Jalen Duren had a really good game, really good second half, so we'll look at some of those clips, and we'll also look at some of the stuff that makes me concerned about the Rockets as a playoff team and as contenders potentially. But we'll start it off with Cade Cunningham just getting himself going here to start this second half. Cade had a ton of turnovers in this game, but he ended up being a completely unstoppable scorer, especially in this third quarter. Just a nice little smooth step back mid-range over Dillon Brooks here. This was the shot that kind of sent him on a run, so we'll see what happens going forward. So I mentioned Jalen Duren, who had a really good game, I thought, defending Alperen Şengün. He's gotten really criticized for his defense, but watch him on this play here. Goes into Alp around the elbow, nice little spin move, gets into Duren's chest, but Duren, so solid, moves his feet, goes up and contests the shot. The Pistons come down with the rebound, and then watch the fast break. Tobias hits Cade, sets his feet, confident, strokes it. He's been shooting it so well this year. This is the type of shot that lets you know the type of leap that Cade has shown this season. Hits this over Amen Thompson. I'm going to show it again because this is something that Cade just hasn't had up until this year. And this is drop coverage, right? So you see Alpi below the free throw line. You see Amen chasing over the top. That's all drop coverage means. And the point of drop coverage is to take away the three-point shot. It's Amen Thompson is supposed to get a rear view contest. He's supposed to be chasing him from behind and forcing him into Alpi and force Cade into like a tough deep two. But instead, Cade's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to shoot it right over the contest, and I'm gonna punish your drop coverage regardless. And this is like, you see, like, teams can't play drop against really good shooters like Steph Curry, because if Amen Thompson, if the guy chasing over the screen is just a half a second late, a millisecond late, this shot's going up if you're a really good shooter. And Cade hasn't been that through the first years of his career, but now he's become it, and he is punishing this coverage. More good stuff from Jalen Duren here. Watch him battle with Alpi Şengün, trying to get a deep catch for Alpi in the post, but Duren just so solid, you can't move him. Alpi turns right away, and Duren gets his hand up there, forces the miss. That's not like an incredible defensive play by any means, but Alpi shot 5 for 14 this game, only had 11 points, so they did a great job on him collectively. Again, this is the type of shot making that has turned Cade Cunningham into one of the most unstoppable scorers in the NBA this season. You watch Dillon Brooks here. So Cade gives the ball up, and then he's going to run off this DHO with Duren. Watch Dillon Brooks. He goes under this screen. You can't go under anymore. Like, Cade is to the point now as a pull-up shooter that you can't go under. By the way, keep an eye on the scoreboard. So the half started at 57-57, and look at the Pistons score now at 75, in large part because of the shot making that I've shown from Cade Cunningham. And the Rockets have only scored 7 points, so they've stayed very stagnant. And another example of it here. This is Jalen Green and Alpi Sengun. They're two best players offensively, right? These are supposed to be the guys that can bail them out and can compete with a guy like Cade Cunningham, but Jalen Green gets into the lane, just gets swatted by Jalen Duren. It's another really good job by Jalen Duren on this play, being able to contain the ball, keep an eye on Sengun, and also recover and come up with the block. But the point is, I mean, the Rockets just didn't have anybody to answer the run that Cade Cunningham was on. This is a great example of the really good team defense that Detroit was playing all game, and especially Ausar Thompson, who it's great to see healthy. You see Fred get in the lane, kick it out to Tari. Ausar had to help on Fred, so watch the rotation. Cade is going to take Tari. He's going to get out to the corner, and then Ausar immediately going to close out onto Dillon Brooks. Then it goes into a DHO. Cade and Ausar switch it. Ausar does a good job walling up Tari, forcing him into a tough floater. And then the Rockets, Tari Eason, fight for it. That's what they do, right? They get offensive rebounds. That's how they score a lot of their points. But then Tari just throws it away. So that was, kind of the story for a lot of this game, was Detroit just forcing them into tough shots, shots that, that floater from Tari Eason, that's not exactly something that the Rockets are happy with as a shot, and then, forcing turnovers as well. The Rockets had a lot of turnovers, as did the Pistons, to be fair. Okay, this clip is cut off, but this started with a blitz way up here of Cade Cunningham. He was, so scalding hot that they decided to start blitzing him, which I think was the right move. But you see, it gets the defense in rotation, and watch the scramble here from the Rockets. Beasley beats Sengun off the bounce here. Amen comes down to help. Beasley makes the pass, and then Fred rotates over, and Hardaway is forced into this tough little step back three. That's a shot. He's made a couple of those, but that is definitely not a good shot by any means. So just showing, the blitz of Cade Cunningham working on that possession. The Rockets, great scrambling. All right, now we're going to see a nice counter from Cade Cunningham and from the Pistons. The first blitz that I just showed, it actually took place like over in the corner over here. Cade almost lost the ball, and he ended up floating out over here and allowing the Rockets time to scramble. This time, though, they blitz him in the middle of the floor, and Cade makes the pass to Duren. It's a kind of a crafty pass just to get it to him, but now you got two guys out on Cade Cunningham near the half-court line. It's just a simple 4-on-3 on the backside, and watch, I love this cut from Tobias Harris, because Tobias cuts, he occupies Tari Eason. You have to respect that cut. He helps, and then Duren makes a quick pass out to Malik Beasley, who knocks it down. So that's just like, it's a little thing from a veteran player in Tobias Harris that he knows how to exploit a 4-on-3 on the backside, and that stuff has been so important for the Pistons this season. All right, I didn't show the plays, but Alpi is coming off of two back-to-back buckets. He got going a little bit over this past stretch, and so what do the Rockets do? They come down, they run the 51 pick and roll. If you don't know what that means, all that is the 5-man is going to be the ball handler, and the 1-man, Fred VanVleet, the point guard, is going to be the screener. I thought this was a really smart play because Alpi was just feeling it. He's a good enough ball handler to run this. You see the nice little step-through move, lefty hook over Isaiah Stewart. And all right, this is another blitz by the Rockets. Let's see what happens. You see Alpi take a little bit too big of a step to the sideline, and Cade is going to split this gap. It's a ridiculous play by Cade to split this, get through the defense, then go up and punch it. Oh man, Cade Cunningham has become one of the most unstoppable scorers in the entire NBA. But I don't think that's a great blitz there by Alpi, but man, that is just such a tough move, splitting the double, going down and finishing. All right, so you see Sengun right here. He had gotten going, gets a really deep paint touch, ends up drawing a couple of bodies. Ron Holland comes to help, and Alpi kicks this out to Fred VanVleet, and VanVleet comes up short on this shot, but watch Cam Whitmore gets good positioning on Ron Holland, comes up with the O board. Houston is such a good offensive rebounding team, puts it in. That's part of why people absolutely love the Houston Rockets, right? The hustle, the athleticism, the fight. Cam Whitmore had a really good game, and just shows, why people love the Rockets so much. Now, you can love the Rockets all you want, but look at the score right here, 92-85, 8 minutes to go. This is like, we're getting real close to winning time here. Ball goes to Amen Thompson. Watch how they cover him. Just deep under, giving him all the space in the world, and Amen falls right into their hands. steps back, takes the three. That's the shot that the Pistons want him to take, and he breaks it, of course. I mean, he's so good, but he is so young, and he's such a raw shooter. He is not, at the level yet to be a guy that you could rely on as a shooter in the playoffs, which is like part of, and in big games, and it's part of why I am concerned about the Rockets, is they just don't have enough shooting or shot creation on this roster as a whole. Another example here of just the youth of the Rockets, the decision-making. Green coming off the pick and roll. There's still 12 seconds on the shot clock. You can move this ball around. You could drive it. You could get into another action. But Jalen Green just steps back, puts this up. He's not having a good shooting game, and he misses it. I know Jalen Green has been absolutely scorching hot these last couple of weeks, but man, like, the decision making with him, the shot selection stuff with him, it still has a long way to go, to the point where I just don't see this team being a deep playoff run type of team. So this was maybe the most frustrating possession all game for Rockets fans. They don't get into any sort of action until there's 7 seconds on the shot clock. The Rockets announcers even called it out. They were really frustrated by it. But it ends up like just being a terrible possession. You end up with Fred driving. Obviously, they're going to leave Amen. As I mentioned, he puts it up and misses it. But this is quintessential Rockets. Look at Fred VanVleet hustle across the floor, throw it off of Duren. Tari Eason is going to come up with this, and then he's going to drive it, and he's going to kick it out. And the Rockets end up with a Dillon Brooks 3 off the chaos. And that's why, like, the Rockets are so hard to quit, because, yeah, as little shooting as they have, as few shot creators as they have, they fight, they hustle, and they find ways to win games. It doesn't end up winning the game here, but that's just a play that embodies them so well. All right, so this possession also got cut off. You see only 1.4 on the shot clock. Basically, Cade got blitzed, and the Rockets did a really good job, and they they deflected it out of bounds. So the Pistons have it down here with 1 second left. Cade throws this up, and Amen Thompson does a really good job to contest at the rim. Just a classic vintage Rockets stop, but then Tari Eason brings it down. Again, this is winning time now, and watch the shot. Like, really? And he gets blocked too. Like, I don't believe in this Rockets offense, man, in terms of a deep playoff team, in terms of a potential contender. And I love the Rockets. Like, I love them so much. I love the energy, the athleticism, the youth, the fight. All of it. I love the Rockets as much as the next guy. They've been one of my favorite teams to watch. Amen Thompson, one of my favorite players to watch. I was just talking to my friends about buying an Amen Thompson jersey. Like, I love this team, but I'm telling you, we got to slow down with how we're talking about them in terms of like their ceiling this season. And they have a very bright future, but don't just look at the standings and be like, oh, okay, so the Rockets are the second best team in the West. Like, please don't do that. I'm trying to be realistic here with the Rockets. As much as I love them, as much as they are, I think probably the single most fun team to watch on a night-to-night basis because of everything I mentioned that they do well. I just think we need to slow down and stop putting these high expectations on them. To me, they're a first-round exit team, and even if they get out of the first round, I don't see them making it out of the second. So, with that said, though, really good win by the Pistons. Man, Cade Cunningham has just taken a massive leap this year. Definitely going to be an all-star this season for the first time in his career, and he probably will be for many more years to come. So, good job to the Pistons. Good job. Congrats to Cade. And please like, comment, and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.